Night 2 is upon us, and man, everything I had a problem with in Night 1 was resolved here. This felt like WrestleMania. This was the show of shows, the biggest wrestling event of the year. So what was different here? For one, the lighting was better, it was improved tremendously, and actually gave the show a big time feeling as opposed to the dark feeling from the previous night. The crowd audio was better. It wasn't as loud on Night 1, most likely due to the cold and the fact that the equipment wasn't working or something. And they actually used some legends here for the show to remind you of their influence on the big event. So right now, let's not waste time. Let's get into it. WrestleMania Night 2. Let's get into it. Okay. The first match on the show was for the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins defended the gold against Drew McIntyre. This story was about Drew feeling unsatisfied and entitled about things. He thinks he deserves the World Championship more than anybody else in the entire company, and his reasoning comes down to the fact that he had his moment taken away 4 years ago. This in turn has made him into one of the most interesting characters on the entire roster. The match itself was weird. It caught me off guard with the style they went for because it was all out from the first minute. They basically went to the fifth gear in the beginning with CM Punk watching on, and this match was fast paced, and with the near falls, it almost felt like an AEW match because they were throwing everything at each other and kicking out. But I guess that's because of WrestleMania, you know, they're going all out. I actually thought Rollins was injured with the way they were wrestling, but I was wrong. Drew winning was the right choice because of the fact that he has more to explore with the title than Rollins, but what they did was even better. That said, Rollins busted his ass. He put in the work during this title reign to make it as relevant as possible. He deserves a long break if he does go on it, or he can continue to be a workhorse, it doesn't matter. But Rollins was really one of the best wrestlers throughout the past year. He was the hardest worker probably out of anybody in the entire WWE. Now, Drew deserved it even in storyline. Rollins told him that with tears in his eyes, and even then his ego couldn't handle not being the arrogant one trying to show off to CM Punk. He was doing what others did to him and proved that he was a big hypocrite. Punk gave him a beating, and this led to Damian Priest finally realizing that his hands were never empty this entire time and cashing in the briefcase to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. Wild moment and a crazy turn of events that set up a lot of stories. I loved it because it was a perfect story they were telling with Drew McIntyre. This guy lost his mind and lost his title. For Damian Priest, he finally got rid of that briefcase and did it successfully. I don't know how his title reign is gonna go. People aren't really looking at it positively, but I'm sure he's happy to represent PR, Puerto Rico, and become the World Heavyweight Champion. But the Drew thing is very interesting. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have him feud with CM Punk throughout the summer. It's going to be very good, and perhaps Clash of the Castle will be the time where he regains the title. We'll see. The next match was the Philadelphia Street Fight. The Pride faced the Final Testament. Bubba Ray Dudley was a special referee because it's in Philadelphia, and Snoop Dogg was on commentary being hilarious. Fun little match for the factions. It didn't overstay its welcome and gave both teams a great platform to showcase their feud that was under the radar for a bit. This was fun, and I thought it was cool that Bobby Lashley actually had a great moment at WrestleMania for once. It was a while since we seen him on the show, 2 years obviously, and everyone played their part well. AOP being the Titans looking almost unstoppable, Bubba Ray deciding to get involved, and I do wish that Devon came out too, but it's no problem. The table broke on Cross at one point, but they managed to solve that problem, and the Pride stood tall. Decent match, quick stuff, you know. Not every match on the show needs to be 20 minutes, it was good. Alright, the next match was between AJ Styles and LA Knight. It's kind of weird how this feud came together. AJ Styles returned and was bigger than ever, looking like a wrestler from 2005. He randomly decided to turn heel and attack LA Knight. The feud was long term, but it didn't have that energy about it until recently. Once WrestleMania was around, they went all out and actually tried to sell this feud as an intense one. What helps its case is that they were brawling in houses at WWE World, and it was great. I thought this was going to be LA Knight's standout moment. He's the face of Slim Jim, at least WWE's face of it, has done well recently, and it's understandable why he's pushed so hard. AJ Styles had a new song, and I thought Def Rebel was going to do something diabolical, and in some ways they did. But honestly, it does seem to match AJ Styles. It's not that good though. This match was yet another important test for LA Knight. They did some good work and actually exceeded my expectations a bit, and I love the fact that Styles seemed more motivated and focused to deliver here. He hasn't had the best reputation at WrestleMania for some reason, and it was some solid stuff and provided LA Knight the big win he needed. I'm sure that he's going to win the US title soon. The next match is a triple threat match for the United States Championship. Logan Paul defended the title against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. As I said in the predictions video, this match would have seemed so random a year ago, but it works. The thing I liked most about this is that Logan Paul didn't need to work as a regular heel here. He was basically his best version of himself here. KO had a great moment with Sami Zayn. Orton rode down to the ring in a ride with KO, and the action was fast-paced and smooth, which is something you always expect in a Randy Orton match, you know. It's always smooth. The spots from Logan Paul were impressive and showed just how much he gets it, and of course the partnership between KO and Orton having an end after they both realized that they can't win the title together. There was some creative moments here, including Orton's pop-up RKO counter, which was a world-class counter from Randy Orton. It was so damn good and one of his very best RKO from out of nowhere moments he's ever had. Logan Paul finding himself stuck after using the brass knuckles and needing help from the Prime bottle to save him was a good moment, and I thought it was KSI again or one of Logan Paul's guys, Mike Malak or something. No, it was this guy, Speed. When I saw his goofy ass show up, I couldn't believe it. He's the last person I expected to show up, and this dumbass was shouting Ronaldo better while getting his ass kicked by Randy Orton. Orton didn't give a damn who he was and dropped Speedy Boykins with an RKO. That was the funniest moment in the entire show. I thought it was crazy they brought him because he's very unpredictable and was cussing out Orton the entire time, who by the looks of it that was stiff on him. He took a beating. Paul tried to take advantage, and at this point, they were going all out. The RKO from out of nowhere from Orton was amazing, as was the spot where Paul tried to push him away. And what I liked about this spot is that they tried to trick you into thinking Orton had him, but he managed to throw him into the post and hit a beautiful frog splash to win the match. Great stuff from all three men. I thought they fulfilled the potential of the match and made good on the build, and I saw some saying maybe it was going to be Sami Zayn in the Prime bottle, which would have been nice, but nonetheless, this was a wonderfully paced match that allowed for everybody to show their very best. The next match was for the Women's Undisputed Championship. Io Sky defended the title against Bayley. So this Damage Control story has been going on for a while now, and to be honest, the faction isn't all that interesting. It's a team that ever since they got their asses beat by Bianca hasn't been able to show that fire they had initially. They're probably better on their own, although I'll give the benefit of the doubt to their recent changes after Bayley left the group. She had a special entrance with once again some horrible Def Rebel music. I'm always a hater of theirs. It's the fact that it's so generic and so unrecognizable. The match itself was different to the others on the show. It felt a lot more grounded and story driven, with Bayley's leg being a big part of the story. Io was sensational here, and it's been a weird title reign, but she ended it with the highest of highs. It was more calmer here compared to the other matches, and they had plenty of time to put on a great match, which they did. I loved Io's performance in particular. She had a special feeling about her on this night. It felt like she knew it was her greatest chance to showcase her skills. That counter to Bayley's finisher was wonderful and from out of nowhere, but it wasn't her night, and Bayley, for the first time in nearly 4 years, finally became the Women's World Champion again. This closes the book on her story and on to the next. I don't know what they're going to do with Damage Control after WrestleMania. It's very unpredictable the way they go about things, but for here, Io Sky had won for very best, if not her best match on the main roster. Yeah, I'm going to say this was her best match on the main roster. I loved it. It was a great showcase from her. It's just the fact that over the last 2 years, as good as she is, she never had a match where she looked as great as she was here. There just wasn't. This was a great match, and she got to show off her talent on the brightest stage, on the biggest stage, WrestleMania, which was nice. As for Bayley, great moment to see her finally win the title. She deserves it after all the hard work she's been doing the last couple of years, and who knows how this run will go. But yeah, it was a good moment. It was a good match. And the main event, Roman Reigns defends the Undisputed Universal Championship against Cody Rhodes. A moment etched in history, WrestleMania 39, a time where everyone thought the American Nightmare would topple the great tribal chief, but in a surprise turn of events, Cody's mistake of not having help or any sort of assistance at that moment cost him. His story was left unfinished. This was a crazy decision at the time because of how far Roman's title run was up to that point, but I guess the long-term story worked out well. We obviously complained throughout it. You guys heard me throughout the year. I'm like, oh, Roman's reign is long, this and that. And it's true. You know, I'm not gonna say, oh, I thought differently. You guys could see the videos for yourselves. I just didn't like the year Roman Reigns had here. The build for this match, though, was absolutely insane and out of this world. It's something I don't think we'll ever see again because of how much energy and interest this match had. Both men had great entrances. Roman still didn't want to change a part of his attire, but it didn't matter. This match had an incredible vibe to it. Very rarely do we get sequels to matches at WrestleMania, especially 2 years in a row. The action was very good, and similar to last year, I just loved the fact that they were facing off. This time around, it was bloodline rules, which meant that anything goes. They wrestled in the crowd. Roman looked more into the match, which was a noticeable difference compared to previous times. It felt like peak Roman Reigns in there. His ring presence was significantly different to how he's been over the last year. His selling was much better. Trash talking was nice, and if I didn't know any better, then I would have thought this was a Roman Reigns match from 2021, which is a good thing. Both men had a great wrestling match before it got all crazy. There was a lot of memorable moments, Roman hitting the crossroads and trashing it as a terrible finisher, telling Cody that it's still his company and that he could go to Hollywood, and then the interferences happened. More super kicks from the Usos, Solo Sikoa coming out and doing the same spot, except this time Cody kicked out. So they tried to do it again, and even then, he still kicked out. John Cena came out like he was 99 overall and ready to drop everyone, get the A on Roman and Solo Sikoa before The Rock came out. I never really thought we'd see this again at WrestleMania. It was insane and clearly seen as washed because he took a rock bottom like that before Shield Seth Rollins came out. I thought for a moment Dean Ambrose was coming back too. Roman took notice and dropped Seth Rollins, who promised to beat Cody's Shield a couple of weeks ago, and to top it all off, The Undertaker came out and chokeslammed The Rock. It got to a point where Roman Reigns chose to blast Rollins over Rhodes and take out all that anger over the last 10 years. This guy wore the same attire he used back in the Shield, all to get one over Roman and remind him of the pain he brought upon him. Somebody that Roman considered a brother, all for the greater good. And this led Cody to his biggest conquest. Ending the longest reigning champion of the last 35 years, he finished his story. 2 years I've been waiting for them to do it, and it got to a point where I didn't care who ended it as long as it ended. But I'm glad they did it the way they did. It was a long story with highs and lows, but it provided us with one of the most energetic and exciting main events in WrestleMania history. Something that I still question how they're going to top this one. Like, I just wonder, if this was as good as it was going to get for WrestleMania 40, how are you going to top this in the summer or WrestleMania 41 itself? It's just going to be almost impossible. But it was one of the best main events in WrestleMania history. The best WrestleMania main event of the past 10 years, most definitely for me. There's just something exciting, nostalgic, and just interesting about this one. Everything about it. It all came together to give us a classic, and What a way for Roman Reigns to go out. I'm just glad the match went the way it did because it allows us to remember Roman's title reign more fondly. He did some great work during this run, but at times it was like they were just dragging it for the sake of it. And now it's time for a new era. This is the beginning of something special, something new in the WWE. But yeah, I'm glad that Roman Reigns lost the way he did. You know, he made Cody look amazing out there, sold for him, played a tremendous villain during this match with all the interferences and help from The Rock, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso and all that. I loved it. It was great. Now, Cody winning the title is an insane moment. You know, we're going to remember this one for a long time. It was definitely a classic, one of the very best moments in WrestleMania history, especially recently. Glad to see all the baby faces up there celebrating with him, his family. Wonderful stuff. It was a great moment. But when we look at all this, again, how do they top this? There's a lot to look at here. It's insane. All right, so that's WrestleMania. This was a very, very better representation of what WrestleMania should be as opposed to night one. I didn't really like night one all that much because a lot of the matches on there, even though they had a good build and stuff, they didn't have that WrestleMania feeling to them. Here, every match was an improvement. Every match had its place on the card. All the matches here felt much bigger than night one's matches. You know, there was a great vibe here. The crowd, you could actually hear them this time around, as opposed to night one where you couldn't hear much. Great moments in here we'll remember. I still can't believe Speed, of all people, appeared during a Randy Orton match. This guy took a freaking RKO. Insane. Io Sky's performance was magical. She was one of the standouts of the entire show for me. There's just something special about her on this night. She showed up. But the real star of this night was most definitely Cody Rhodes. He got to finish his story and do it in a big way. Again, I had a problem with Cody losing at WrestleMania last year. I thought it was a very strange decision to have him lose, but it was all worth it in the end. You know, I'm going to admit it. It was all worth it in the end. The way, the twists and turns, the pivot, the way they had to change plans, which Triple H himself admitted before the show they had to pivot. There was a lot throughout this build of WrestleMania, and I don't think we're going to see anything like it, which is crazy. You know, The Rock carried hard, Cody Rhodes, they all did their work. And I don't think we're going to see a build like WrestleMania 40's main event. I just don't. So yeah. Alright, what you guys think of WrestleMania Night 2? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the RKO on the like button and perhaps the crossroads on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.